What's good, y'all? Yet another surprise all-star trade happened in the NBA. This is why I love this time of the year, because you never know what's going to happen, and I guarantee you, no one expected this trade to happen. Anthony Davis is getting traded to the Washington Wizards, and I know it was reported that Anthony Davis might get moved, but no one thought it was the Washington Wizards. The full trade reported by Shams Charania is Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum all going to Washington in exchange for Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley, 2 first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. Real quick, just to go over the specifics on these draft picks getting sent to Dallas, you have a 2026 OKC Thunder pick, a 2030 Golden State Warriors pick, that's top 20 protected, and then the second-round picks are a 2026 Phoenix second-rounder, a 2027 Chicago Bulls second-rounder, and then a 2029 Houston Rockets. I know that's a lot of moving pieces, as these trades normally are. We are going to break it down from both the Mavericks and the Washington Wizards perspective in just a few seconds. I want to remind you guys to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. I've talked about it in the other surprise trade videos I've already done, but this coming Thursday I'm going to do a full recap video on all the trades that I haven't talked about yet. If you are interested in some of the trades I already have posted videos on, like Jaren Jackson, like James Harden, those are all on the channel right now, but also don't miss out on that Thursday recap video. But now let's get right into it and break down this trade. As always, we're going to start by talking about the team that got the best player, and of course that is the Washington Wizards, landing Anthony Davis in this one. This is another very surprising trade, kind of similar to the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. I was very surprised to see him get sent to Utah of all places, and now here with Anthony Davis getting sent to Washington, I am very surprised that's where he actually ends up. I know there was a lot of rumors about maybe Atlanta, maybe even Cleveland was talking about it. No one really thought Washington was in the sweepstakes, but they end up pulling it off. And we already saw them do a similar move like this earlier in the year, trading for Trae Young, buying low on him, not having to give up too much to bring in super high-level all-star talent into the door. They kind of do the similar thing here with Anthony Davis, not really giving up much. We will talk about what they gave up a little bit later, but right now I just want to talk about the actual addition of Anthony Davis, because banking on health, pairing him with the rest of this roster, specifically Alex Sarr, Trae Young as their big three right there now with Anthony Davis, it is amazing to me. It sounds on paper like a fantastic fit on both sides of the ball. And obviously this does bank on the health of Anthony Davis. He's gone through injury problems throughout his entire career basically, especially now as of recent, seems like it's kind of ramping up. So hopefully he's healthy, and I'm going to go through this whole kind of thought process with him being somewhat healthy at least. But when you think about him getting paired with Alex Sarr in the front court, then you have Trae Young running the show, like it is going to be a really high ceiling out there in Washington. Their potential starting lineup would probably be Trae Young, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Anthony Davis, and Alex Sarr. I really like that starting five. And then off their bench, they still have guys like Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, Justin Champagnie, whatever draft pick they get in the lottery this year, considering they probably will be towards the top of the lottery. And I say they'll be towards the top of the lottery because we already saw they've held out Trae Young with his injury for the rest of this season. I assume with Anthony Davis and all the things he's going through with his, I believe it's his hand now, they are probably going to sit him for the rest of the year. So I don't expect to see either of those guys suit up for the Wizards until next year. But next year, after a full offseason of adding around the edges to this already pretty decent looking roster, again, the ceiling could be pretty high. I just think about all these steps that Alex Sarr has made this year, and now you're going to pair him in the front court with Anthony Davis. Defensively, that's going to be absolutely incredible. I don't know how you're going to guard or score in the paint against Alex Sarr and Anthony Davis both on the court at once. It's a lot of length, a lot of rim protection, and then also both of these guys are so good at moving in space and being able to switch out, guard pick and rolls, give you different looks, cover a bunch of ground. Defensively, those two pairing together is fantastic. They also have lots of other guys with solid defense and length, like a Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, Justin Champagnie. They have a lot of these perimeter guys. Then you have these guys at the rim. Like, again, defense is going to be very good. And even though they've only had Trae Young on their roster for a few months now, they pair him with a great big man that fits his play style perfectly as a pick and roll partner. Also kind of helps the defense, like I've been saying. And obviously we all know that's Trae Young's biggest deficiency. So adding defense and length around a guy like Trae Young definitely will help the team. And then again, that pick and roll duo of Anthony Davis and Trae Young, I think they're going to work wonders. Anthony Davis is a great lob threat, great roller. Trae Young has operated the pick and roll his entire NBA career. I do really like those two pairing together. And then also, we all know Anthony Davis could create his own shot out of the post. He's a great offensive rebounder to create his own shots in that aspect as well. So he is definitely going to elevate this team a lot on both ends of the court, and I really do like his fit for what they have right now already. The only thing that makes this fit a little bit weird, if you want to call it that, is Anthony Davis is much older than a lot of these other guys. Even a guy like Trae Young was a few years older than this group, because the Washington Wizards right now, I think their whole young core is like 21, 22 years old, if that. So any real established player in the league is going to be older than this group. But Anthony Davis still is about, I think, 32, maybe even 33 at this point, and is going to get even older. Obviously, that's how time works. So banking on him staying healthy in his older age, and then also banking on him not declining too much by the time the Wizards want to have all their young guys develop and towards their peaks. I do think the timeline is a little bit weird, but at the bare minimum, he is going to be like a bridge star, if you want to call it that, while they wait on their real big man, Alex Sarr. I'm a really big Alex Sarr fan. I think that this year he's shown a whole lot. Now to be mentored by Anthony Davis, pairing alongside each other, it's going to look good. And then even beyond, when Anthony Davis is not on the team, retired from basketball, whatever, I think him working with Alex Sarr is going to do wonders for his career. And like I kind of mentioned a little bit before, obviously we still have a full off season of moves the Wizards could be doing before we really see what this team looks like all together. But on paper right now, I'm willing to say this makes the Wizards a playoff team next year in the Eastern Conference. Of course, they didn't just get the one player of Anthony Davis in this trade, though. They did get a few other guys. No disrespect to Dante Exum or D'Angelo Russell. I view both those guys basically as just salary filler in this deal. I don't think they have a real fit for the Wizards right now. I don't think they have a real fit for the future of the Wizards. They're just kind of in this deal existing. I will say Jaden Hardy, I think, could have some value on this Wizards team going forward, just as a bench piece, being a ball handler off their bench. I think that he could be a solid scorer for them. And then looking at what the Wizards gave up in this deal, again, no disrespect to these guys, but they basically gave up salary filler, and there's not a lot of real value out of the players they gave up. AJ Johnson probably has the most value out of any of those guys, and that's almost strictly based off his age. He's only 21 years old. He's shown a lot of flashes as a really athletic player, but he barely really played for the Wizards. So honestly, they didn't give up too much. And usually in these type of trades, if you don't give a lot of player value, you usually give a lot of draft capital value. When you look at the draft capital that the Wizards gave up, it's a 2026 OKC Thunder pick this year. That's going to be a very late pick. They're the number 1 seed in the entire NBA right now. They also gave up that 2030 Golden State Warriors pick. That's top 20 protected. I don't know fully what the protections are down the line and everything, but it's a very heavily protected pick. It's not going to be a lottery pick or a high top 5 whatever type of pick. And then 3 second-round picks. Again, not a lot of value there. Honestly, I think this is a home run type of trade for the Wizards. They got away with giving almost zero player value and very bare minimum draft capital value. I think this is an incredibly low risk, high reward move for the Wizards, because worst case scenario, Anthony Davis gets hurt and he isn't really ever the player we once saw him as to be. They didn't really give up much, and that's okay. They still have Trae Young. They still have all of their young pieces. They could kind of pivot from there if needed. Best case scenario, Anthony Davis comes here, elevates this team, and now we're looking at the Wizards as a solidified playoff team. All that being said, if I had to give a grade for this trade for the Wizards, I'm giving them a A. It was close to an A+, honestly. I was really, really close. Just the fact that Anthony Davis obviously has his health issues and his age doesn't really match up perfectly with this timeline. Those are the only things holding this back from an A+. I still have to give it an A, though. Absolutely terrific moves from the Wizards so far. And now to move on to looking at this trade from the Mavericks perspective. I'm not going to connect it to the Luka Doncic trade because I know it's very easy to do that. If someone were to do that, they essentially traded Luka Doncic for Max Christie, AJ Johnson, 3 firsts and 3 seconds. Not the best value, but I'm not going to do that. I won't connect it to Luka Doncic in that trade. They already kind of handled Nico Harrison for doing all that, so I won't do that to Mavericks fans. But even if you don't connect the two and you just look at the return for Anthony Davis, I do think this is a very lackluster return. I get that Anthony Davis' value is down, and a big part of that is due to his injuries. Not only his injuries that he's had in the past, but this season he's struggled to stay healthy for extended periods of time. I get that he didn't have the best value right now, but you didn't need to trade Anthony Davis. I know Rich Paul came out and he said that he thinks it's best if Anthony Davis gets moves and all of that. But then Anthony Davis came out and said, hey, I kind of like Dallas. I'm not demanding a trade. I'm fine with staying here. So if this was the best deal and the best offer you got for Anthony Davis, I would have just sat pat, waited to the offseason, and then revisited conversations when teams have a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, they didn't think that was the case. They thought they had to move Anthony Davis. They thought this was a good enough return. Me personally, though, I don't think so. I think they could have gotten a lot more for AD. And I get it. It makes sense that they want to start the Cooper Flag era, and I'm sure we will see a lot more moves before the trade deadline where Dallas kind of just tears everything down. But again, I don't think they needed to rush this Anthony Davis trade to the fact where they got almost no value. Just when you look at the players they got back, you get an aging Chris Middleton who was a buyout candidate. Maybe even the Mavericks themselves will buy him out. Who really knows? Not much value there. You have Marvin Bagley, who has been cool this season, but still not that much value there. The most valuable players you get back is AJ Johnson, who's 21, and Malachi Branham, who's 22. And honestly, their real value is just in their young age. When they've both been on the court, even though it's been very limited when they have had opportunities, they haven't shown anything crazy where you think, all right, those are the players I want to base my Anthony Davis trade around. And again, like I was saying with the Wizards, if you don't get good player value, you usually at least get the draft capital aspect of it. But again, like I talked about a little bit before, you have a very late first-round pick from this year, a heavily protected first-round pick in the future, and then 3 second-round picks. That is not very good return at all. If I were in charge of the Dallas Mavericks, I would definitely have fielded offers for sure. I would have figured out kind of the landscape around the league, and if this was my best offer, I would have just said, all right, AD, you're going to sit on ice, get healthy, and we're going to revisit this in the summer. You could still make those other trades for your role players and get off a Daniel Gafford, get off a Najee Marshall, and all of these other guys while waiting till the offseason to move AD. I know that he is kind of their first domino piece to really fall in all of this, but I don't think he necessarily had to, especially if this is all the value that you got. When giving this trade a grade for the Mavericks, I'm going to give them a C. I do get that they want to move on to this next era, but I definitely think they could have gotten way better value. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments down below. Let me know your grades on both of these trades. I would say, who do you think won this one? But I think this is a pretty obvious winner, in my opinion. Definitely the Wizards. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Tomorrow, I'm coming out with my trade deadline recap video. A few of these superstar trades, though, I had to just pop off on these one-off videos and give my initial reactions because they were just too important to not. Anything I didn't cover already, though, will be included in that Thursday video, so make sure you don't miss out on that one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.